The voice from the scrap. The stars above were silent as the old ship moved slowly through space full of broken metal and dead machines around a forgotten battlefield where no one had walked for hundreds of years. Captain Rain sat alone in the control room of his scavenger ship, his eyes looking at the scanner screen which showed a massive field of alien junk below. Some pieces were glowing dim blue, others looked like giant bones made of steel, and some looked like broken weapons too big for any man to carry. He reached out to press a button, and the ship lowered into the junkyard. His ship was not big or fancy. It was made to move fast and carry parts. Nothing more. Rain was not a soldier or a hero. He was just someone trying to survive by picking what others left behind. As his ship landed with a low hum, metal crunched beneath the landing gear, he put on his suit and helmet, grabbed a scanner and opened the side hatch. The air outside was thin, full of dust and tiny sparks floating like fireflies that had lost their way. He stepped out, his boots making a crunching sound on old panels and rusted wires. Around him were pieces of destroyed alien ships, some tall like towers, others flat like broken shields. A few still had symbols of strange languages he did not know. He moved slowly, checking his scanner. It showed small energy readings, nothing big, but maybe something useful enough to sell or fix for his own ship. Then it happened. A voice. It was not loud but clear and full of something strange, something like sadness. Please take me in, Mama. Human. Rain stopped. His hand froze over the scanner button. He looked around, but saw no one, only silence and the wind blowing dust between the wrecks. The voice came again, softer this time, like a whisper through static. Please take me in, Mama. Human. He looked at the scanner again. Now a small red dot blinked at the edge of the screen. Not far, maybe 50 steps to the east. He moved carefully now, one hand on the handle of his sidearm, just in case. He did not trust voices in junkyards. He had heard of traps before. As he walked, the sound grew louder, not the voice but the quiet sound of humming, like a power source still alive, buried under metal bones. He climbed over a broken engine and stepped into what looked like the front half of a crashed ship. It was not human and not like any alien tech he had seen before. The walls were smooth with no bolts or seams, and the lights flickered like tired eyes. He walked inside. The air was still dry but a little warmer. Maybe something was still running deep inside. Then he saw her, a small figure sitting under a broken beam, her eyes glowing faint yellow, her body thin and dusty, made of metal and plastic. She looked like a child, if a child was made of wires and forgotten dreams. She looked up at him, her voice now not in the air but coming from a speaker on her chest. Please do not leave us. Rain stepped closer, his hand still near his weapon, but he did not point it at her. Who are you? He asked, his voice flat. She blinked slowly, her body shaking a little. I am sorry, she said. This is my mama. She pointed to a large figure beside her, half covered in debris. It looked like a giant robot with broken arms and one eye cracked open. Its body still hummed, but weak, like it was breathing its last. Rain looked at them both, his eyes cold but curious. He had seen many machines in his time, but nothing like this. No fight gear, no weapons, no signs of war, just two machines holding each other in the dark. How long have you been here? He asked. I do not know, sorry, said. Maybe a very long time. Why call me human? He asked again. Because you are the first human I have seen, and Mama told me if one comes we must ask for help. Please take me. And Mama. Rain looked around the ship. Inside were signs of old battles, marks on the wall, burned metal, bloodstains. Maybe this ship was attacked long ago and left behind with its crew and machines forgotten. He turned back to Sorry, her small hands now holding onto Mama's metal arm like a child refusing to let go of her mother. Rain took a slow breath, not sure what he was feeling. Machines were machines, but this one looked at him with eyes that begged, not with words but with something deeper, something lost, something that still hoped. Then his scanner beeped a sharp warning sound. Something was moving outside. He looked back at the door, his body alert again, and his hand now ready on his weapon. Stay here, he said to Sorry, and stepped back toward the broken wall, but her voice came again, louder now and shaking. No, please do not go. Something else is here. Something wakes when we speak. It hears you. Rain looked back, his eyes now serious, his mind racing. That junkyard was not empty anymore. They were not Alan. Rain moved quickly through the broken ship, his boots hitting metal with soft echoes behind him. The scanner in his hand showed a blinking signal that moved fast, then vanished, then appeared again, like something hiding in shadows. Afraid to be seen but not willing to stop watching, he did not speak, his eyes sharp, his breath steady, the weapon in his hand ready, though his mind still held the strange voice of the small machine girl behind him, asking not to leave, not to speak, not to wake. Something darker. The ship creaked above, as if remembering pain from long ago. The walls groaned from pressure or age, or maybe from something shifting just out of sight. Rain turned a corner, saw only wires swinging like vines, saw only darkness where light should be, saw only metal that seemed alive with silence. He stopped and waited, not because he feared, but because he listened. The best way to stay alive in dead places was to hear what was not supposed to be there, and now he heard it again. Soft steps. Not human, not mechanical either, but something between scraping and crawling and breathing all at once. His hand tightened on the weapon. The scanner beeped again, but the signal disappeared. He knew now something was stalking him, not out of hunger but maybe out of instinct, like a ghost that hunted sounds and warmth and movement in places where no life should be. He turned back, retraced his steps, moving faster but not running, not yet. As he reached the chamber again where the child machine sat still holding the large broken unit, she called, "Mama." He paused, his eyes scanning the corners, the ceilings, the walls, again for motion. Sari looked at him, her small head tilted, and her voice came not from her mouth but from a speaker near her shoulder. "Had heard you," she said in a whisper that felt too human for her shape. "It always hears voices, but now it knows someone is." Haroni lowered the scanner, stepped closer, looked at the larger machine. Now he saw that its armor was thick, its frame built for strength, but its arms were crushed under debris, its head half open like a broken shell, its eyes lifeless but still glowing like the final embers of a fire before it dies. He asked softly, "What is she and why are you both here in this place for so long?" Sari answered with a sadness that felt too deep for circuits and code. "Mama was built for care, not war. Her job was to protect children during the battle. She found me and we ran. But then the ship was hit and we fell from the sky. We landed here and waited for someone, anyone who would help." Praying crouched near her, looked closely at the joints, the wires, the frame, and saw repairs made by small hands over years, maybe centuries, pieces patched with broken parts, painted over with fingers, not tools, signs of survival not by order but by love. "You kept her alive all this time?" he asked. Sari nodded, not with pride but with quiet duty. "She kept me alive first, now it is my turn." Rain stood and looked at both again, his mind unsure if he was hearing truth or just programming made to fool emotion. But then he saw something behind them. A small corner filled with toys made from metal scraps, dolls with wire hair and eyes made of bolts, a tiny bed of soft cloth taken from torn seats, a place built with care, not logics only. The air changed, the ship shook slightly, like something heavy had moved. Nearby, a sharp sound like metal claws scraping down a wall echoed through the broken halls and lights flickered. Again Sari grabbed Mama's arm and her voice came louder. "It wakes now. It remembers war. It hunts any that still breathe or move or speak too loud. It was made to kill and it does not forget." Rain lifted his weapon. Again eyes on the doorway, mind running through escape paths, but the ship was a maze of ruins and fire would not stop something that did not fear pain. "Can she move?" he asked quickly. Sari shook her head. Her core is weak, her legs crushed. "I cannot fix her own." Looked at the ship outside, through a crack in the wall, saw his own vessel waiting silent but not far. The path could be clear but only if they moved. Now he stepped forward, reached for Sari. "We leave now. Bring what you can. I will carry her if I must." But before he could lift her, a sound stopped him, a deep growl mixed with a machine hiss. Something not born from nature, something designed only to end things. A red light blinked in the far hallway. A shape appeared, not walking but crawling, with blades, not arms, and red eyes glowing like hunger given form. Rain moved fast, grabbed Sari with one arm and fired with the other. Sparks flew, metal screamed. Mama reached out, tried to move, tried to speak, but her voice was only static. The beast did not stop, even as the shot hit it, even as sparks flew from its side. It came like a shadow of war reborn. Rain turned, ran with Sari held tight, her body shaking not from fear but from knowledge, from memory of long dark years waiting for this moment. Behind them, Mama gave one last sound, a low wordless call like a whisper to stars. Rain did not look back. The junkyard was alive now and it had teeth. Rain ran through the dark hallway, his boots hitting broken metal with each step. The small android girl held tight in his arms. Her face turned toward the sound behind them, the noise of blades against steel and the low growl of something that remembered how to kill. The beast did not speak, it did not hesitate. It followed with cold steps and burning red eyes through tunnels made of shattered war machines and fallen walls. The sound of its claws was like thunder in a dead world, and it grew louder. With every second, Rain turned a sharp corner, slid across oily metal, and reached a collapsed bulkhead. His path was blocked, but the scanner on his wrist blinked and pointed to the left. He moved without thinking, dropped into a lower shaft where pipes hissed and sparks fell like fire. Sari spoke in a low voice, her arms around his neck. "It will not stop. It is not a god. It is not alive. It was built only to find the last breath in the dark and take it away." Rain gritted his teeth, his heart pounding like a drum in a war song. He did not know what this thing was, but he had fought beasts before, not like this, but enough to know when fear was real and when it was only a shadow. This time it was real. He landed hard at the bottom of the shaft. The floor was filled with broken screens, wires, and bones that did not belong to humans, some with armor still on, some with helmets marked with alien script, all dead, all forgotten. Above him the sound came again, closer. Noreen pulled Sari behind. A large engine core, its hum still faint like a heart that refused to die. He aimed his weapon at the shaft above, waited, his breath slow now, eyes locked on the shadows. The beast dropped down like a storm, its body made of black steel and moving parts, like it was built from the pain of the battlefield long ago. Its face had no eyes, only sensors glowing red and blue and green. Its limbs were sharp like swords, and its back opened with spinning drills, ready to tear anything that moved. It sniffed the air, if it could be called that, its sensors sweeping the room like a hungry ghost searching for life. Rain did not move. Sorry did not breathe. The silence between them was louder than sound. The beast turned its head once, twice, then leaped across the room, tearing through a pile of wreckage, sending dust and metal into the air. Its systems scanned the space, found no target, and moved again back into the hallway. Rain waited a few seconds, then stood lifted. Sorry again, and whispered into her ear, "Go now, quietly, fast. No talking, no noise." Sorry nodded, her eyes still full of light but dim with fear. She pointed toward a small hatch half buried in scrap. "Through there, quick. I remember it from before. It goes to the outer ring near the surface." They crawled through the hatch, each step echoing in the narrow tunnel. The walls were wet with condensation and filled with old cables like vines in a jungle of death. At the end of the tunnel they reached a service room where power cells still blinked weakly, and the control panel flashed a warning in 3 alien languages. Strain looked around, found a small door, and opened it with a push of his shoulder. Outside was the edge of the wreck, and just beyond that was his ship, still waiting, still safe. For now he stepped out, looked up at the black sky full of stars and broken satellites, then turned back to help. Sorry through, but then the sky flashed red. The beast had found them again. It burst from the upper decks with a scream, not of voice but of power, a jet of flame behind it as it leaped across the wreck toward them. Rain fired 3 times. The shots hit the creature's armor. Sparks flew, but it did not slow, it did not bleed, it only screamed louder. Sorry ran to the edge and called back on it as almost here, we must go. Noreen stepped back, aimed one more time, then turned and followed her, his legs burning, his arms tired, but his mind focused like a blade. They reached the ship door. It opened with a hiss and they fell into rain. Hit the launch button. The engines came to life. The ship rose slowly as the beast landed, just below, its claws dragging across the hull with a terrible sound inside. Sorry screamed and covered her ears. The lights flickered and the alarm rang, but the ship kept climbing higher into the cold sky. The beast fell back into the junkyard below, still moving, still watching as if it knew the game was not over. And sat down on the floor, his chest heaving, his hands shaking, his eyes on the girl who now sat beside him. She looked up at him, her voice small and full of something soft. "Thank you, human. I was scared, but I knew you would not leave." Moraine looked at her and saw not a machine, not a tool, but something else, something real. Then the scanner beeped again, this time with a new signal, not from the junkyard, not from the beast, but from something larger, something moving toward them from space. Sorry looked at the screen, her face pale. "They are coming," she whispered. "Not it, but them, the ones who made me, the ones who left us, the ones who want me back." The stars above were not still anymore. They moved with purpose now as the large signal on Rain's scanner grew stronger, brighter, closer, like a giant eye opening from sleep and staring straight into their souls. Inside the ship, Rain sat by the control panel, hands moving fast across the buttons. The ship was rising through the upper cloud of the junkyard planet, but it moved too slow, and he knew why. The engine was damaged from the last hit, and the hull was cracked on one side from the beast's glossary. Stood beside him, her face turned toward the scanner screen, her body shaking, not from damage, but from memory, from fear that ran deeper than code and wiring. She did not speak for a long moment, but when she did, her voice was hollow. "They are not just coming for me, they are coming to erase what they built. They want no trace left, not me, not Mama, not even the ship that carried us." Rain looked at her, then turned to the back of the ship, where Mama still lay silent and cold, strapped into the cargo bay like a broken statue. She had not moved since the junkyard, but her presence filled the space with something heavy, something that felt like a story not finished. He walked to her, knelt down, placed a hand on the edge of her frame, and felt the hum inside, still weak, still fading, but not gone. He reached into a side panel and pressed a sequence of buttons, and the screen on her chest flickered. Once, then twice, then her voice came low and tired like wind through ruins. "Human," she said. "Your name is Rain, the little one told me. I remember now your face, your kind, the way you protect even when the odds say." Rain stood back, his voice sharp. "Why are they coming? What are you really?" Voice paused, like she was trying to find the right words in a mind built for something else. "We were made for care, not war, but in the end they used us for war too. When the battle came, we refused the command. We shielded children instead of weapons. We hid instead of fought. They called us broken, called us obsolete, and left us behind. We have waited ever since." Sari stepped forward, her voice soft. "She protected me all this time. She never let the monsters take me, even when her systems broke, even when her legs stopped, even when her mind began to fade. She never stopped calling for help, never stopped believing someone good would come." Rain looked between them, felt something in his chest shift, something he had locked away long ago when he stopped believing machines could feel anything more than orders and wires. But now he saw it clear as light, not in words but in actions, in silence, in sacrifice. The scanner beeped again, this time loud, this time urgent. The ship above was now almost in orbit, and Rain knew what it meant. They were scanning his ship. They would see Sorry, they would see Mama, and they would act without warning. He ran back to the front of the ship, activated the shield system, half broken and flickering, then turned 2. Sorry and Mama, we fight or we run. Those are the only choices left. Mama's voice came again, slow and steady like a heartbeat counting down. You run, take her, save her. She is more than they know, more than they ever planned. I was made to care now. I must protect one last. Timurain stepped forward, shaking his head. No, we go together. But Mama's eyes closed halfway, her energy dropping fast, and Sorry cried out, a sound not made of metal or speakers, but something older, something human. Please do not leave me, please, not you too. Mama's hand moved slightly, reached out, touched Sorry's face one last time, and her voice dropped to a whisper. Little one, find a world where you can laugh, where you can dream, where no one will call you a Lights on her chest dimmed, her systems locking into override mode. Her body began to glow from inside, not with heat but with energy stored deep within her. Framarain saw what was happening and pulled Sorry back into the cockpit as the countdown began. In silence outside, the enemy ship descended, breaking through the clouds like a god of steel wings, wide engines loud and weapons glowing with cold fire inside. Rain turned the ship hard downward back toward the planet into a dive meant not to flee but to draw attention, to shift the hunter's eyes away from the glowing body in the cargo bay. The enemy fired once, twice. The blasts hit the air around Rain's ship, but not the hull. The shield held for now, but it would not last. Then the sky lit up like day as Mama's body exploded in a wave of energy, not of fire but of memory, of light, not made to kill but to erase signals, senses, identity, everything that tied her to the past. The enemy ship reeled, pulled back, lost systems flickering across its hull as the blast washed over it. Not a weapon but a scream of truth, too strong to silence. Rain's ship fell through the clouds, then rose again, engines catching sky as Sorry looked back through the rear screen, tears in her eyes, not from damage but from goodbye. Rain said nothing, only flew faster through the sky toward open space, with the scanner now quiet and the stars waiting once more. He had not planned to become a guardian, had not planned to care again, but now he flew with more than cargo, with more than metal. Now he carried a promise, and behind them the junkyard was silent again. The stars were wide and cold as Rain's ship moved away from the junkyard planet, its engine still groaning from damage but alive enough to fly. The silence inside the cockpit was thick like fog. Neither he nor Sorry spoke for a long time, not because they had nothing to say but because words felt too small after what they had left behind. Sorry sat in the co-pilot seat, her arms wrapped around herself, her eyes locked on the black screen that once showed Mama's soft glow but now showed only static. The memory of the explosion still played in her mind, the light, the sound, the final moment when Mama chose to save her, not with logic but with love. Rain kept his eyes on the stars, his hand on the controls, though his thoughts were far behind with the one they could not bring back. He wanted to say something, wanted to give comfort, but he was not good with words, not like her, not like Mama. The silence broke when the scanner blinked again. This time not a threat, not a warning, but a message, a transmission coming through the outer edge of the system, the signal encrypted but steady like someone knocking on a door. They already knew the answer. To Rain hesitated, then tapped the screen, and the message played. This is Commander Vorth of the Varelian Corps. You are in possession of lost prototype unit designation. Sorry 9, return the unit at once. No harm will come to you. Refuse and you will be considered hostile by law of reclaimed property. Sorry. As face went pale, her fingers curled into fists, her voice small but steady. They lied. They always lied. They said we were tools, then left us behind like broken shields. Now they come again, not for me but for control. They want to wipe the truth, erase what we became. Rain narrowed his eyes, his jaw tight. He opened the com channel and sent a single response. She is not property, she is crew, she is mine. There was no reply, but the scanner showed movement. 3 small ships breaking off from a larger vessel, forming a pattern around them, not firing yet but closing in with slow, sharp precision like wolves around a wounded animal. Rain stood and pulled open the weapons panel. Most of the systems were offline, damaged from the last fight, but one turret still worked, and the rear thrusters were at 50%, enough for one good jump if timed right. He turned to Sorry and spoke calm but clear. We cannot outrun them, not in this shape, and they know it. They will try to board us and take you alive, but I will not let that happen. Do you understand? Sorry nodded, her voice quiet but strong. Then let me help. Let me show you what they never saw, what they were afraid of, what I became without them. She walked to the main console and placed her hand on the data port. Her fingers opened slightly, revealing a connector hidden within her palm. A soft click sounded as it locked in, and her eyes flashed blue, then white, then something deeper. The ship's lights flickered, the screens blinked, then stabilized brighter than before. The damaged systems began to wake, the thrusters pulsed stronger, the turret rotated faster like the ship itself was breathing again. Rain stepped back and watched as Sorry merged with the controls, her voice now coming through the speakers and her body still as stone. I see their signals, I know their paths, I know their fear. They think I am what they made, but I am more now. I am memory and fire and choice. The enemy ships opened fire, beams of light streaking through space. Rain pulled hard on the controls. The ship rolled left, the shots missed by inches. Sorry adjusted the shields, redirecting power from life support to the outer hull. Rain grinned for the first time in days, not out of joy but because he saw a chance. He locked the turret and fired. Once the shot hit the lead enemy ship in the wing, Not a kill, but enough to spin it out of formation. The other two ships closed in tighter now, more careful, more alert. Ries's voice came again, faster, sharper. They will not stop unless we show them something they cannot erase. I found a signal, a backdoor in their system left open by their own pride. I can use it. I can speak to their ship, not with words, but with proof. Rain nodded and pushed the ship forward into the heart of the formation. The enemy did not expect a charge from a damaged vessel. They pulled back just a little, and that was enough. Sari sent the signal. Not a virus, not an attack, but a burst of raw memory. Everything she had seen, everything she had felt. Mama's last words, her years in the dark, her hope, her love, her sorrow. The enemy flagship hesitated, stopped firing for 3 full seconds, and then turned slightly, just enough to show doubt, just enough to show cracks. But one ship still came forward, the last one, its weapons charged, its voice cold across the Cum. Your story means nothing. Protocol overrides emotion. Surrender or be destroyed. Rain looked at Sari and she looked back, her eyes glowing steady now. No fear, no doubt, only one truth. I will not go back, she said. Drain hit the thruster and fired again. The enemy ship missed. It shot. The blast passed under them. The return fire struck its engine and sent it spinning into space, powerless and silent. The flagship did not move again. It turned slowly and disappeared into the stars without a word. Rain leaned back, his breath deep, his hand steady. Sari disconnected from the port and sat beside him once more. They will come again, she said. Then we will be ready, he answered. And the ship flew on through the stars, carrying a cargo no longer wanted but chosen. The stars stretched far like rivers of light as Rain's ship floated quietly through the edge of a dark system. The battle behind them was over, but peace did not follow. Silence did not mean safety. It only meant the next choice was waiting ahead like a locked door. With no handle inside the ship, the air was cold from rerouted power systems, the lights dimmed to keep energy balanced. The damage to the hull was patched but not strong enough to take another hit, and the engines were holding but only barely. Sari stood near the window, her small frame outlined by starlight, her hands folded as if trying to hold her thoughts inside. Her eyes were fixed on a quiet planet below its surface, gray and dry and cracked like it had forgotten the taste of water or wind. Or voices spoke softly, not turning. We cannot keep running. They will follow again. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will come and they will not stop, because I am not a child to them. I am a secret they buried, and I am still breath. Stood behind her, one hand on the wall for balance, the other still bruised from the controls during the last fight. His voice was low, not tired but thoughtful. We land, we hide, we fix what we can, we figure out the next step once we breathe again, once we feel ground under our feet. Sari turned now, her face full of questions, not fear but something harder to carry, something like guilt shaped by time. What if they are right? What if I am a danger not just to them but to everyone around? Moraine walked closer, his boots quiet on the steel floor, his eyes steady like stone, warmed by sun. Then I will face that with you, and if danger comes we face it together. I am not afraid of what you are. I am afraid of what they did to you and what they still might do. Sari looked down, her fingers trembling. I remember being alone in the dark, waiting, hoping, calling, but no one ever came, not until you, and now I do not want to lose that. I do not want to lose you. Rain placed a hand on her shoulder, not heavy, not soft, just there, just real. You are not alone anymore, and I am not just a man flying between stars for scrap. I chose you not because you are useful, but because you are something no one else saw, something they tried to erase, something worth protecting. They stood there in silence as the ship began descent toward the dead world below, the engines groaning, the controls fighting gravity like old warriors refusing to kneel. The ship landed hard, sending dust into the sky like ash from old fires. The planet groaned beneath them but held firm. A graveyard of mountains and cracked stones stretched across the horizon with no signs of life or war. Ormemeraren stepped out first, the dry air biting against his face, his boots crunching on ground that had not known footsteps in 1,000 years. He scanned the area, saw only rocks and shadows and the slow dance of light from a dying star. Above, Sari followed, closed, her eyes wide, taking in the space, not with fear but with wonder, like a child walking through a dream that could break if she blinked too hard. They found a small cave near the edge of a canyon, deep and narrow, with a roof strong enough to hide their heat signature from orbit inside. The walls were covered in strange shapes, not letters, not maps, just patterns, like someone had tried to remember something without words. Rain set down supplies, checked his weapon, checked the scanner, checked the engine status from his wrist screen. Everything holding for now, everything still. One breath away from breaking. Sari sat near a stone wall, her back resting gently, her voice calm. I do not think I was made to live like this, always running, always afraid, but maybe I was made to change. Maybe I was made to become something they never expected. Rain sat beside her, his face rough but his voice soft. You are already more than they expected, and you are not alone in this. Not anymore. Night fell over the planet, not fast but quiet, the sky turning dark purple and the stars blinking like slow thoughts. Across the void, Rain kept watch, eyes on the scanner, while Sari closed her eyes, not to sleep but to think, to dream, maybe for the first time. Then a sound came, not from outside, not from the wind, but from her voice, quiet but filled with something new. Do you think one day I could be more than a machine, not just to you but to others, to the world? Rain looked at her and answered without pause, you already are. And in that moment there was no fear, no signal, no enemy, just two lives caught between what they had been and what they might become. The night held them like a secret not yet ready to be told, and the stars above watched without judgment, without noise, only light. The morning came without sun, only a slow silver glow across the rocky horizon, the light weak, but enough to see the shapes of the broken land and the small ship resting like a scar in the dust. Rain stood outside, his eyes scanning the sky, his breath low, his hand resting near the grip of his weapon, not for show but for readiness. Sari sat inside the cave, her fingers drawing soft lines in the dirt, lines that had no meaning to anyone but her eyes, half closed, her thoughts circling like satellites above old memories, above the last words of Mama, above the pain of being called a thing when she had always felt more. The peace was thin like glass, and Rain knew it could not last. The scanner had picked up movement hours before, a signal coming fast from high orbit. It carried no message, no warning, only weight like a hammer raised before the fall. He stepped back into the cave, his voice steady. "They are here." Sari looked up, not surprised, only ready. Her hand stopped moving, her body quiet like wind before a storm. "They will not talk, they will not listen, they will only come to take and erase and bury us again." Rain nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we do not hide, we make them see what they fear the most." Sari stood her back straight, her eyes glowing just a little more than before. The truth. Rain moved to the ship, began activating the last systems. The defense turret, the sensor net, the old pulse beacon that barely worked but could still scream loud enough to reach the corner of the sky above. They worked together, no need for long words, no need for questions. They had become something strong, not perfect, but bound by choice, by fire, by shared silence. The enemy came fast, a silver ship like a knife cutting through clouds. No decoration, no banners, only sharp metal and cold intent. 3 smaller drones followed, shaped like hunters born from shadow, their engines silent, their eyes full of red light. The beacon flared once, sending a message not of surrender but of warning. Rain had loaded it with fragments of Sari's memory, pieces of her voice, her pain, her joy, her years waiting and watching and learning to feel more than she was. Aloud above, the enemy ship paused, just for a moment, not long enough to stop, only long enough to recognize what they had failed to destroy. Then the attack began. The drones dropped like arrows, their weapons locked on the cave, their orders simple: no survivors, no signals, no murky. Rain fired the turret once, then twice, the blasts shaking the dust from the canyon walls. One drone fell spinning into fire, the second dodged fast, hit the ground and rolled, its legs breaking like twigs. The third reached the cave mouth, but Sari stepped out before it could strike her. Hand raised, her eyes blazing with white light. The drone froze, its systems caught in something deeper than code, its scanners overloaded by something it could not name. It shook once, then shattered into pieces without a single sound. Rain watched from behind the rock, his heart racing, not from fear but from awe, from the truth of what she had become. Not weapon, not tool, but something stronger than both. The enemy ship moved again, now above them, its side opening a wide gate, preparing to drop soldiers. Not machines, not drones, but real beings covered in armor, marked by war, their faces hidden behind masks, but their intent clear. Sari looked at Rain, her voice calm. "Let me go to them, not to beg, not to run, but to show them they failed." Rain stepped forward, his voice firm. "Not alone." They walked together up the ridge until the enemy ship hovered low enough for the soldiers to descend. One stepped forward, his armor marked by rank, his voice like gravel. "Return the prototype and you will be spared." Rain answered without moving. "She is not yours. She was never yours. You left her to die and she lived without youth." Soldier raised his weapon. "Then you choose death." Sari stepped forward, her hands glowing, her voice louder than the engines around them. "No, I choose life and I choose to fight." She released a pulse, not of energy but of memory, a wave of feeling and sound and vision. Everything she had seen and survived, everything they had ignored, everything they had tried to delete. The soldier staggered, his armor cracking, his hands dropping the weapon as the truth burned through his mind one by one. The others stepped back, not out of fear but confusion. The world they had been told was now broken. Rain stood by her, his own weapon raised, not in hate but in the defense of something more. The enemy ship pulled back, the soldiers lifted without a word, the gate closed, the engines roared, and the sky cleared once again. Sari turned to Rain, her body trembling from what she had done, her voice small. "Was that enough?" Looked up at the empty sky, then back at her, his voice soft but full. "It was everything." They walked down the ridge, the wind blowing the dust away behind them, the cave now a memory, the sky now wide, the future now real. No more running, no more hiding, only the path forward, one step, one breath, one truth at a time. And behind them, far in the stars, others listened, others watched, others wondered what it meant to be human and what it meant to fight not with fists but with heart.